Good morning, girls. In the last class, we learnt about Razia Sultana and Nazruddin Mahmud, and we learnt that Mahmud he was only 17 when he became the ruler, and since he was very young, he was very inexperienced. He was very weak and inexperienced ruler, and because of this, his prime minister, that is Nazruddin's prime minister, Balban, was given the charge, he was given the responsibility of taking care of the administration. So Balban, he ruled the empire on behalf of, as a representative of Nazruddin, for about 20 years. So today we'll be learning about Balban, that is the prime minister, Nazruddin's prime minister, Ghiyazuddin Balban. After the death of Nazruddin Balban, his prime minister became the ruler. So when Nazruddin died, his prime minister Balban became the ruler. When Balban ascended the throne, he had to face many difficulties. So when Balban came to power, when he became the ruler, there were many difficulties, and Balban had to face these difficulties. First, the Turkish nobles, headed by the group of 40 or Chalasa, had become very powerful and threatened the position of the king. Now we had learnt about the Chalisa, that is a group of 40 slaves. Chalisa, they were the group of 40 slaves, and this group, it was established by Iltutmish during his rule. Now this group, that is a Chalisa, it was a group of Turkish nobles. They were a group of powerful Turkish nobles, and each of these nobles were given power. They were given high positions, high posts by Iltutmish. So when Balban came to power, by the time Balban came to power, this Chalisa became very powerful. It had become very powerful, and they were a threat to the king. They were a threat to the position of the king. So this is the first difficulty which Balban had to face. Second, many local rulers troubled him both within the Sultanate and on its borders. There were many local rulers, that is, rulers of the local regions, and all these local rulers, they were a trouble to Balban. They troubled Balban both within the Sultanate, that is, within the Sultanate borders and beyond its borders. Third, he was faced with the continuous threat of attack by the Mongols. Now we had learnt that Mongols, they continuously threatened the Delhi Sultanate. So when Balban came to power, Mongols, there was a threat of Mongol attack, and he had to face this continuous threat of attack. Was also another difficulty which he had to face. So these are some of the difficulties, the three difficulties which Balban had to face when he became the ruler. Balban faced the situation with courage. He took stern measures to break the power of the nobles. So when he was faced with all these difficulties, he was very courageous, and he faced all these difficulties, this situation, with courage. Now, how did he face the situation? He introduced stern measures. Stern means very severe or very strict measures were introduced to control the power of the nobles. He fought against the local rulers and crushed all the rebellions against him. So they were the local rulers who troubled Balban. So when Balban, he was very courageous, and he fought with these local rulers, and he put an end to their rebellion. He put an end to their revolt. He restored order in Duab by destroying the power of local chiefs and appointing Afghan garrisons to curb their lawlessness. So there was this region, that is a Duab. It was a region between the rivers, between two rivers, Yamuna and Ganga. So in this region, there was a complete disorder. The people, they were against the law. So Balban, he restored. Restore means to bring back. So he restored order in that. He restored his authority in this region. Now, how did he restore? He appointed Afghan garrisons. Garrisons means it refers to a military unit. So Afghan armed force or Afghan military unit was appointed in this region, and this Afghan military unit was able to control the disorder, control that state of disorder in the place in the Doab region, and hence Balban was able to restore, he was able to bring back a state of order in the region. He also suppressed the revolt of Tughril Beg in Bengal. Now, in Bengal, there was a revolt led by Tughril Beg, and Balban was able to suppress, he was able to put an end to this revolt. Balban took various measures to combat the continuous raids of the Mongols. So, there were continuous raids. The Mongols continuously raided the Delhi Sultanate. So, Balban, he took measures. He took many measures to control, to fight back these, to fight this continuous raids. Combat means to fight back. He ordered reconstruction of old forts and construction of new forts along the northwest frontier. Now, what were the measures which Balban took? He reconstructed the old forts. There were many old forts, and Balban ordered to reconstruct these old forts, and he also ordered to construct many new forts along the northwest frontier, along the northwest border. Frontier means the border of a country or the part which faces another country. So along the northwest border of the Delhi Sultanate, Balban ordered for the construction of many new forts. He kept a strong standing army and appointed his two sons, Muhammad and Bughra Khan, as governors of the frontier provinces. So new forts were constructed, and the old forts, they were reconstructed along the northwest frontier. And also a strong army, a very efficient and strong army, was appointed along this frontier, and his two sons, Balban's two sons, Muhammad and Bughra Khan, they were appointed as the governors of these frontier provinces, governors of these northwest provinces. They inflicted a crushing defeat on the Mongols when they invaded Punjab, and thus saved the country from Mongol menace. So the Mongols, they attacked Punjab. They were attacking Punjab. They were entering into Punjab, and during this time, the Balban's army, which was led by Muhammad and Bughra Khan, they defeated the Mongols, and by this defeat, they were able to save the country. They were able to save the Delhi Sultanate from the Mongol threat. Menace means threat. So they were able to save the Delhi Sultanate from the threat of Mongols. Balban reorganized the administration and military organization of the state. So there were many measures which Balban took in order to bring back the order, in order to establish his rule. So this was another method. He reorganized the administration and the military organization. So everything was reorganized during his rule. To enhance the prestige of the king, he advocated the divine origin of kingship and called the king as representative of God on earth. So, in order to increase his reputation, enhance means to increase or to improve. So, in order to increase or improve his reputation as a king, he advocated that, he favored that the king was of a divine origin. That is, the king was of a holy origin. Divine means holy. So he advocated that the king was of a holy origin. That is, the king was a representative of God on earth. King was a God's representative on earth. He maintained a magnificent court and ordered strict discipline in the court. So Balban, he established a magnificent, that is a very grand court, and strict discipline was ordered in the court. He introduced the practice of sajda and pebos in the court. So Balban, when he was a ruler, the court was very strict, discipline in the court was very strict, and the practice of Sijda and Paybos was introduced into the court. Sijda means the practice of kneeling and touching the ground with one's forehead, and Paybos is the practice of kissing the king's feet. So, the two practices, Sijda and Paybos, they were introduced into the court. And what are these practices? Sijda is a practice where the person kneels on the ground and he touches the ground with his forehead. Now you might have seen how the prayers, how Muslims they pray. They kneel on the ground and they touch the ground with their forehead. So that position is known as a sijda. So the custom, the practice of sijda was introduced in the court. And another practice, that is a Paybos, was also introduced. Now, Paybos was a practice where the person had to kiss the king's feet. So, the person, they had to kneel on the ground, touch the ground with their forehead, and they had to kiss the king's feet. So, these were the two practices which were introduced in the court by Balban. This practice was not liked by the Muslims because according to Islam, all men were equal and sijda should be done only before Allah. So, the practices, that is the sijda and Paybos, they were introduced into the court by Balban, but both these practices, they were not liked by Muslims. The Muslims did not like this practice. They were against this practice because according to Islam, according to their belief, all men are equal, and the practice of sijda, that is kneeling on the ground and touching the ground with their forehead, that practice, that is the practice of sijda, it had to be done only before Allah, only before their God. So, hence, this practice was, the Muslims were against this practice. Balban completely reorganized the army. He placed the cavalry and infantry under the command of officers of high caliber. So, Balban, he reorganized the army as well, and he placed the cavalry and the infantry. So, cavalry refers to soldiers who fight on horseback, whereas infantry are the soldiers who fight on foot. So, both these categories, both the cavalry and the infantry, they were put under the command of officers who had high caliber, who were highly talented officers. They were put under the command of the high talented officers. He confiscated the lands given to old men unfit for military service and gave them pension. So there were many old men, many old soldiers who were unfit for fighting, who were not fit for military service. So all the land which was given to these old soldiers, they were taken back. The land was taken back from them by Balban and they were given pensions. He recruited young men in the army. So the old soldiers, they were sent away. They were given pension and they were sent away, whereas young men were recruited. They were enlisted into the army. Balban died in 1286. So in 1286, Balban died. His successors were weak and inefficient. So after his death, all the successors, all the rulers who came after Balban, they were very weak and inefficient. Therefore, after 4 years of his death, the slave dynasty came to an end and was replaced by the Khalji dynasty. So, the successors who came after Balban, they were very weak and inefficient. So, after 4 years after the death of Balban, the slave dynasty began to decline. It came to an end and it was replaced by the Khalji dynasty. So, this is about Ghiyazuddin Balban. So, Ghiyazuddin Balban was the last efficient ruler of the slave dynasty. So, we have completed this chapter, and in this chapter we learnt about the slave dynasty, the rulers of the slave dynasty, about Qutbuddin Aibak, and about his son-in-law Iltutmish, and Razia Sultana, Iltutmish's daughter, who came after him. And then we also learnt about and Ghiyazuddin Balban. So we'll stop for today, girls. Thank you.